2,000 who were qualified, you 7 have been selected for the longest and greatest space mission in the history of humanity.
This is Mark Hoaksey from Powerplay Magazine UK, and I'm here in Montreal with Blaze Bayley. So Blaze, tell me, I think the fans here in Canada would like to know, especially those fans that came last time, what's going to be different this time around on the tour?
Well, I've had a great opportunity, and that is I can bring my own band from Europe, my own backup band. I work with a band called Absolva. They're a band in their own right, and they've been working with me over the last 4 tours that I've done, and I've written songs with the guys. These are the men that have played on the first part of the trilogy, Infinite Entanglement, and on the Endure and Survive album, and it's great to be able to bring the guys that have played on the album and are my regular backing band to Canada. I've been here quite a few times, so using local musicians, I've made friends and worked with some really great guys, but to come with the band that I tour with regularly, that's something very special. I'm independent, so I'm a very small artist, and a lot of singers in my situation do this kind of thing, and it's nice to be able to build up to a situation where I can say, right, I can take the show that I do everywhere else and give that same show to my fans in Canada that have supported me over these last few years. So it really feels like a kind of homecoming in a way, because I came here as a special guest for somebody quite a while ago, and then I've done things with other bands, so it's really nice, and I hope that fans will enjoy it. I know a lot of people are really excited about it, looking forward to it. So state your name, please.
I'm Chris Appleton, guitar player for Blaze Bayley and guitarist singer for Absolva.
I'm Karl Schramm, and I'm the bass player for Blaze Bayley and also in Absolva.
And my name is McNee.
Turn the mic on.
Yes, sir.
Oh, it's because I can't remember. State your name, please.
My name is McNee, and I play drums for Absolva and Blaze Bayley.
I'm Mark Appleton. I'm manager for Blaze Bayley and tour manager for Blaze Bayley worldwide.
Blaze Bayley. I am here to destroy Tirana.
Great, well you mentioned the 2 parts of your trilogy. When can we expect the 3rd part?
Well, on or around the 1st of March next year, 2018 that is. So when we started and we looked at the first album, and there was just too much there to do one album, and it was, you know what, it's not one big album, it's 3 albums, because one of the songs which you're going to hear on part 3 is something that we had ready for part one, but when you looked at the lyrics and when you looked at the music and what it said, this is where he is in part three. And there was another song, and it was, well, this is where he is in part two. So it just makes sense. I'm very lucky that I am the record company. I'm tiny, independent. I managed to set up my own label a few years ago with distribution. So I can actually say what the release date will be. So realistically, I thought, you know what we can do is have 1st of March 2016, 1st of March on or around, I think it was 3rd of March 2017, and 1st of March 2018, and we'll do one album, we'll get it finished, and we'll tour in Europe in the springtime. And I don't like touring in the winter, so you know, that's one of the reasons I said that. And it's really worked. We've managed to stick to it. It's a very tough schedule.
For sure.
And we've just stuck to it. It's a lot of work and a lot of personal sacrifice for everybody, but it's something that, as the idea came, I was very excited about it, and you know, really pushed the thing to start it off. And as it's gone on, now I'm being dragged along by the Infinite Entanglement idea. At first, everything was going, and now it won't stop. It just goes. And you put out the first album, and a week later, people are saying, "Oh, I can't wait to hear part two." And it's the same with part two. I want to hear part three, but it has to be a year. I didn't want to be in the situation where you were saying, "Oh, well, when I feel it's ready, when I feel," because you're never going to have time for that. If you set in my experience, being independent, you set the deadline and then you work towards that deadline, and you're much more likely to have the energy to get it done. And that's what's happened, so I'm very excited about it.
Absolva was started around 5 years ago. It's a band that came out of the roots of a band called Fury UK, and the reason we started Absolva was Fury UK was myself, Martin McNee, the drummer, who's still with me today, and my brother Luke Appleton. And cut a long story short, Luke, my brother, he got the job for a band called Iced Earth, and after he left, we decided that we wanted to start a fresh band, and that came the birth of Absolva, British metal band.
So that was the start of Absolva, and their bass player left about 3 years ago, and I caught an advert from Blaze's Facebook page. Actually, he shared that they were looking for a bass player, so I just thought, hey, why not, and sent in my application, and now here I am.
Absolva it sounds like the new wave of British heavy metal with a bit of a modern take on it, a modern spin.
If you've not heard Absolva, it's very much like 80s British heavy metal, lots of like Saxon influence, Maiden, Priest.
Absolva's new album is called Defiance, and it is available on our web store, which is absolva.com. We also have a Facebook page, Absolva. We got drums in the background.
You can just try the level now.
I look very shiny on this stuff.
Part one of Infinite Entanglement, the Infinite Entanglement album, really tells the story of the character discovering who he is. He's selected for a mission to go into deep space to find a Kepler Earth-like planet and investigate it. He's part of an 8-person crew, and what happens is on this journey he finds out that he's not human. He doesn't know if he's human. Am I human? He has to ask himself, because his consciousness has been downloaded into a machine body without him knowing. And it's a special process that they've done. And now, is he a machine or is he human? He thinks like a human, he feels like a human, but how does he define himself? This journey that he's begun lasts 1,000 years, because there is no faster than light travel. That's just, it's an impossibility now, and I believe it will be in the far future, an impossibility to go faster than light. So he is on this ship and has to endure a journey of 1,000 years, 1,000 days awake almost, and it's something unimaginable in a way, and that is the endure part of the story. He starts to find out more about his character. He has these terrible dreams, nightmares really, about killing people, about pulling them to pieces, and he starts to discover that wasn't a dream at all. He, in a suggested hypnotic state, he has killed he's killed 7 members of the crew, and this is what's happened. And now the central computer and the ship itself is programmed to eliminate him. He has to survive this attempt to obliterate him, to destroy him, so that the only thing that reaches the new planet is genetically perfect human DNA selected by Director Pembridge, who has started this whole thing going. And that is the survival part of it. And I didn't know how it would go with fans, but everybody has got on board with it. I did an album years ago called 10th Dimension, and this central character is related to the character from that album, and fans have really got on board with it. Essentially, it is a very human story based in the feeling that we're given of possibility by quantum physics versus the standard model.
Illusions of freedom, of hope and redemption, seduce the vain though we can know well-intentioned, accepting the praise for their own sacrifice.
Infinite Entanglement, we started that process quite a long time ago now. It was probably even like 6 to 12 months before we actually started recording it, and it was originally only meant to be one album, and in the rehearsals we had 2 weeks and we came up with something like 18 songs. So at that point it was going to be one monster album, and then Blaze phoned me up and said, you know, we haven't got actually enough studio time to do this. And the story is still continuing, the concept that he had for the album, and that's where Blaze came up with the idea of the trilogy, which I kind of said it's a big task, but I think we can do it. And the songwriting has been a really good process, because myself and Blaze, we share a lot of the same influences and backgrounds, like with the Dio era Black Sabbath and the Operation Mindcrime sort of influence. So when we're writing, we kind of spin off from each other quite well, and the songwriting comes very naturally. I come up with some riffs and some melodies. Blaze has got this idea for lyrics and the story, and we really get into it together. We have a couple of arguments along the way as well, but I think that's only healthy.
First met Blaze back in 2008, did a couple of shows with him. I was looking after the support band. That support band was called Fury UK. A few years later, having kept in touch and done the odd other piece of work along the way, he invited me to become his tour manager for UK and Europe, which I was delighted to accept. And then just 18 months ago, early 2016, I was then extremely honoured when he asked me to become his general manager. As I say, that's worldwide and something that I absolutely love to do.
Powerplay is it's an international rock magazine based in the UK, but it's independent. I own the business. I make it my living, and I put everything in there that I adore.
Why have you chosen to go fly from the UK to Canada to cover Blaze Bayley on this North American tour?
Well, first of all, Blaze Bayley is a great singer. He has a great band. He deserves a coverage. I could have run a story in the UK, but it would have been less interesting for the readers. They get to read about the trials and tribulations of a band's first North American tour. So will there be a conclusion to the story?
Yes.
Or will we leave it open, like Operation Mindcrime?
No, it's part 3 we're working on now. We have about 7 songs that we think are good enough at the moment. We have a little bit of time before we get to the main pre-production, where we hope we'll have some flashes of inspiration. I'm working on the lyrics as I go when I get spare time. So yeah, part 3 is, we have the skeleton of part 3, and now we have to find all the other bits. I have an idea where he'll be at the end of the story. And then of course, after we have this conclusion and we tour everywhere again, a full world tour with part 3, at the end of that we're going to do a live album DVD of the set list that we do on that tour. And after that, the 1st of March 2019, I hope, touch wood, that I'll have my book complete, because the trilogy is based on a book that I'm writing as I go along. And if you pre-ordered the platinum edition of the first CD, you got the rough notes of the book, the first couple of chapters. And in the end of this all, I'm going to take some time off and finish my book. So you'll have then all of the answers from those 3 albums. You'll know all the backstory to the characters, everything. So that's where we're headed, and I'm really lucky that I can do this because I'm independent. At most times in my professional career, if I've been signed to a label, they tell you when the album will come out, even when it's ready. You know, from my first Wolfsbane album to things I did with Steamhammer, SPV. I remember one time that I was in a situation where they said, your album's delayed because Elton John's coming out this week, and all the resources go to that. You think, well, how does that affect heavy metal fans? But that's it. I don't have to make those compromises in this situation. And the people that pre-order my album are the people that really make it happen. And then when I'm out here and I'm selling my CDs and I'm able to sign them, there's a free meet and greet after every show that I do. These are the people that really support me and make it possible for me to continue and come back. So I'm very, very lucky to have so many really loyal fans around the world.
Excellent, so there you go, March next year for part 3 of the trilogy.
My top 3 Iron Maiden songs have to be definitely The Klansman, Blood Brothers, and probably Future.
At the moment, I'm really into Book of Souls still, so I think The Great Unknown from Book of Souls is one of my favourites. And the other one's going to have to be Rime of the Ancient Mariner.
Stranger in a Strange Land, Rime of the Ancient Mariner, and Brighter Than a Thousand Suns off A Matter of Life and Death.
I'd have to go with Matter of Life and Death would be absolutely one of my favourite. In fact, that whole album really has got my favourite Iron Maiden material. The Klansman, which is very close to my heart because it's one of the key songs in the set list that Blaze still does from his era with the band. And I would say, thirdly, for a similar reason, but also because it was never on a studio album, Virus, which is now just an unbelievable version that the guys do in the set list today.